Okay, so just coming back to our posture. There's something John said to me personally, and whenever John said anything, you know, sometimes you just know that it was important, you know, he'd sort of get serious. And so he just said to me, he said, look, through your work, just find a handful of principles that you just know work for you and just stack them one on top of the other and never deviate from them. He says, if you do that, it'll save you years. And so for me, I didn't really know what he meant at the time, but for me, it's almost like the vertebra. Yeah? You've got to somehow just stack the vertebra one on top of another with the sacrum at the bottom. And so they're just sitting like a stack of bricks, really. And then you're just there encountering the world, and your mind is just completely empty, because if this is full, you can't fill with what's here. So real presence is nothing special. Real presence is just presence, yeah. And you're just clear. You know, so the Zen Buddhists, you know, they always say that we touch enlightenment all the time. Those moments of just clarity, of just really attending to what's outside you and forgetting self. So forget self and become one with the Tao. You know, we're doing that all the time, but we don't realize that that's what's important. So people think enlightenment is something special. Yeah, I'm going to feel wonderful or whatever, but it's nothing to do with how you feel. It's just to do with how you are. Yeah. So these vertebrae just sort of sitting on one on top of another. So the main adjustment we need to make is that, you know, we're all depressed. And so what's basically happening is we're all sagging forwards. So each of these vertebrae has to click back a little bit so that this can just look up like a flower looking up at the sky. You know, they say the only place you find no evidence of depression is a war zone, yeah, where the people have to be so awake and on their toes and vigilant, yeah, they just don't have any time to drown in self, yeah. So just feeling the feet. They sort of grow. It's like you've got really big feet. They feel big. So the bigger they are, basically, the more stable you will be. So they say that actually standing on these 2 feet, which are pretty small, is actually quite a feat, which is why it takes a child so long to learn just to balance on its feet. So it feels like they're growing and expanding. And feels very much like your heart is above the sacrum. And so it's their feet supporting the sacrum, which is producing this thrust upwards, which is like a fountain billowing out of the heart. You can feel it where you like. His heart's obvious, and then the head as well. Yeah, so we stand. So those directions: sink the shoulders, elbows heavy, loosen the hips, and concentrate the spirit. Yeah, that's the important one. That's the one that people don't really know how to do. You know, so if you had to fight someone, yeah, you just pull yourself together. So that's concentrating the spirit. You just draw yourself in, and then you're extra ready to respond to the world. So you're not just ready to observe, you're ready to respond. Okay, and now let's just move from side to side. And just feeling the feet slightly differently. So I'm sinking into this foot, but I want to feel as though I'm not just falling into this foot and then letting go with this leg. I'm pushing into the ground with this foot. So I actually end up getting more than 100% into this leg because I have my weight in the leg, but I also have this leg pushing even more into this foot. Yeah, so there's a sense that the system is just very tight. I sink into this leg, but this leg is pushing into the ground. So the foot is empty, but it has the energy of pushing. Yeah. And then you put or sort of push with the outside edge. So this never happens. It never collapses in. It's pushing out this knee, but it's driving you into the other leg. Yeah, so one leg is bending and compressing like a spring, and the other leg is really expanding and pushing. Yeah, so this leg is pushing me into this leg. Yeah, so you have to feel the arch of the legs. So this has to push up in order to get the down here. Yeah, so this is coming up and then it will go down because that's just the shape of the arch of the legs. Ooh. So there's a sense that the leg that is straightening is not slackening off as it finishes, it's actually intensifying. So here it's really expanding. And I'm just really trying to get rid of the S shape in the spine. Yeah, so more like just the simple fetal spine. So just feeling as though the spine goes all the way down to the foot and it's just a smooth C shape from here to the top of the head. So it's very integrated. So you don't really have an upper and a lower body. You've just got a body that's very much centered here. Yeah, so if we don't work like this, then this is never really the center. It's more like the bottom of the torso, with the legs being these two slaves that support the torso. just again, this is drawn in, so you're really trying to push the min meng back. Just feel the sacrum, you know, the way we used to, just feeling the legs and the hips coming up and attaching on the sacrum on the top of it. So the bottom of the sacrum and the tailbone can just have a sense of hanging. Yeah, so the sacrum is 5 fused vertebrae and the tailbone is 4, I think. So this sense that there's a little bit of movement in the sacrum and the tailbone. It's got a little bit of a sort of wriggle in it. It can do something. And whatever it does gets really exaggerated in the top part of the body. Okay, now we want to just turn the waist without turning the hips too much. So just feel the legs coming on top, holding the sacrum. They're just trying to keep it stable. And so you just turn just a little bit. So it feels like you're trying to pull the elbow down into that muscle on the back. And there's a sense of glancing back there as well, almost like you're trying to peek at your python on your spinatus erectus. So just twisting. That's it. You can let the hips go, but you want to make sure that it's the waist that turns first. It's not, you're not turning the hips. We're turning the waist, and the hips can follow along, but they'll always go a little bit later. Ooh. Let the head go. Let the head go round. So I'm trying to glance down at this muscle on in my lower back. So I just want them to tighten a little bit. I want to feel them toning up and just becoming active. And so most of the people I know in Israel are either very old or they're therapists of one sort or another. You know, Tai Chi teachers, psychotherapists, most of them. And they all agree with me that basically the middle class nowadays are depressed. Yeah, they all have some degree of depression. Now, it's largely because we've lost nature and we've lost God, but we've also lost our own body. So we don't work the body in a strenuous way anymore. And so we've forgotten the muscles that would really kick in to actually do something that's really difficult, which is these muscles. So we're just trying to activate them and just feel how they just charge up your spirit. They get the job done. So you just pull there. It just takes you round, and they're quite sort of, you know, it's grim, and you just feel tough and a little bit mean, with a lot of determination and no self-pity. So you just get the job done with no thought for your own safety or your own pleasure. Yeah, if it's a difficult job, then so be it. So just pulling round. So this is what you develop when you get into practice. You know, you do it whether you want to or not. Because that's the part of you that does it whether you want to or not, is the bit that's not your ego. It's your ego saying, oh, I don't want to, I'd rather watch TV. But then you've got a conscience, you see. Your conscience is the voice of your spirit. It's the real you. And we've lost that as well. So we now have a legal system, we have laws that have replaced justice. Justice is basically your own conscience. You know what's best. There's no excuse. Ignorance is no excuse. You know certain things shouldn't be done and certain things should be done. Ooh. So just feel it, when those muscles become toned and active, you're ready for anything, but also your chest is quite proud. Yeah, this is what we've lost as well. Yeah. Okay, let's just bring it back to the front, and now just feel it, just feel those muscles. It's like this, yeah. Let's just stand like this for a while. So holding the golden urn. So this feeling that the chest is doing this, yeah? Yeah, so basically when you're standing in riding horse, which is this is just like the cloak of yielding, which hides the core of this. So this is how you should be inside. And then the ward off and the softness is an external cloak, as a disguise, yeah? So this is all these muscles here. They're toned and you're together. Yeah? You just want to feel them knitting the legs and the arms together through the torso. And what it will tend to do is just make the spine sort of just arch like this a little bit, almost like you're going to lean backwards, yeah? So the whole spine, it's like each little vertebra has just adjusted slightly with the spirit. Yeah, so basically depression is a deflated spirit, a deflated spine. Spine and spirit are the same word. So here something just is doing this all the time. And that's basically ward off. So we have to make sure that our ward off doesn't depress us even more. So we have to make sure that within ward off, there is the core of this. Yeah. Now, if you're working properly, then the more you work on this, the more this will develop inside it. Because, you know, when you're working in a relaxed way with real sincerity, then it's always Taoist. But every now and then, you just have to remind yourself, yeah. So these are basically the two extremes, yeah. So this is the extreme of yang, and then going into riding horse with the big open back and the hollow chest is the extreme of yin. Yeah? So this is where we live really, because this is soft and it's amenable. So it's a good disguise, but inside you're something quite different. So we want a spirit that's not cruel. It's just no self-pity. Yeah? You're just not weak. There's no moaning and groaning. Yeah. If you try meditating, this is what the Zen people say. They're the people that sort of go most deeply, really. And so Suzuki used to say, when you sit and meditate, you're basically enlightened, or you're exercising the enlightened part of you. So what the Buddhist says that, you're already a Buddha, you're already enlightened. It's just that you don't realize it because you've got all these layers of shit that have just laid on top of it. So when you're sitting to meditate, there's the mind that's going around telling you to go off and do something else, but you're not. You're sitting there and you have the image of contentment. Yeah. And so there's obviously part of you that's just peaceful and quiet, because that's what the body is. Yeah. What's happening up here is by the by. So we tend to notice this because that's what we associate with. So we just want to ignore that and just come back to the content body. So it's just switching your allegiance from the indulgent, weak part of you, which is basically the part that's thinking in words all the time, back to the body. So the body mind, from the thinking mind to the body mind. Yeah. And the best image is the tree. Yeah. So the tree that just happily just prays all day. It's just lifting its heart to God all day. Thinks of nothing else. Yeah. Okay. Now let's just turn. But again, imagine you're stuck in the pool. So it's really quite difficult. So you're having to use this complex, the belt, the waist. You're using the muscles in the back, and you have to use tension in the belly to support the muscles in the back. So you need to sink into the legs just to get enough purchase on the ground so that when you try turning this water, it doesn't dislodge your feet from the bottom of the pool. So, so how well you work depends largely on how good your imagination is. Just how absolutely you can just abandon yourself to the images that your mind is conjuring up. So you really, again, just feeling the emotion that's attached to these muscles. It just does the job, very much like a laborer. When you see someone that just they're just digging the road all day. They've just got such good energy, yeah. Someone that uses their body well. That's why I love going to the Arab village across the way. You go into a restaurant there, a cafe, and it's just full of working men. And they're all grubby, and because they've all been laboring, but they're such gentle, cultured folk who are just really in their bodies, yeah, in the way that we aren't, yeah. So, whoa. So when Max was little and him and his mum lived in Hackney, he was going to the local school, which was always his favourite school. Largely because most of the kids were coloured like him, so he felt at home. So his best friend, his mum bought him a couple of rabbits, little rabbits, and he loved these two little rabbits, but his little brother was really jealous that he had got the rabbits and Johnny, so it's Finnegan and Johnny. So Finnegan's the big one, it's Max's friend with the rabbits, and his little brother Johnny was the one that was jealous. And they went out one day and left Johnny at home. When they got back, he had torn all the legs off the rabbits. They were dead, of course. But just imagine the sort of anger you'd have to just wrench these legs off these living creatures. Yeah. So this is that sort of, it's the same sort of, it's like you're pulling legs off rabbits. Yeah. So you just got to get the job done. Yeah. I know, you just don't want to get squeamish, yeah? You just do the job. So you wouldn't have enough strength in just your hands and your arms. You'd have to really wrench from the lower back and preferably from the legs. Ugh. So as I turn here, it really stretches this side, and then I just contract that to return. So I'm letting the muscle trains really stretch so that it's got this natural tension. And then I just tighten the train and it pulls it back. Ugh. So it's pulling all the time. The muscles are shortening in order to pull. Okay, so let's bring it back. Again, just feel this. They should start to feel sort of big and a bit throbby. Yeah, so what we'd like is almost the feeling that they've taken over. Yeah, so it's not just a feeling that's back there, it's the whole of you becomes these two muscles. Yeah, so they reach up into your head and your arms and they reach down into your feet. So again, sink the shoulders, heavy elbows. Like John used to say, like you've got weights hanging off your elbows. Loosen the hips, this sense of expansion here, with the sacrum just very loose and heavy and dangling, and concentrate the spirit. Yeah, so something in you just, ooh. Which is the opposite of what's happening in your body. Your body is expanding, but your spirit is coming into a smaller space. It's concentrating. It's a powerful phrase, concentrate the spirit. It integrates the body. And if you concentrate the spirit, you will naturally come to the Dantian with your mind. Okay. And now let's just move from leg to leg with the first the spring. Yeah, so what we want to do is start feeling circulation. So John used to say that basically any malady, anything that's wrong is due to a lack of circulation. So we want to, as we sink into the leg, it becomes a spring that throws me back. I sink into the leg and it becomes, I'd like to feel the return as just being beyond my body. So there's like a circulation here. As I go down the leg, it's bringing energy up here. So something is going down the leg with this hand, but then this hand is bringing the energy up outside of my body to the side here. Yeah, so the energy is always sort of bigger and longer and slower than what's happening in the actual body. Yeah, so this feeling here, and whoa. Yeah, and if you can't feel energy, it's because you're blocking it with your mind. So you just have to just keep on going and just relax. And the mind has to be really, really light, happy, content, cheerful, with a real willingness to notice anything that's rising, because it's spirit that rises. Yeah, so I have to know, oh, something's coming up here, and you're never quite sure if it's real or if you're imagining it. Ooh. So it's your sinking that stimulates the energy to rise. So the energy is outside the body, and we want to feel as though that it's leading the body. So this energy is coming up, and there's a point where, oh, okay, I'll go with you. Like catching the wave in order to surf it in. Yes, the surfing is such a good image, especially if you know surfers, because surfers are really cheerful. They're lovely people, you know, big open hearts that never take anything seriously. Yeah, so they just know what it means to catch energy. Yeah, you can't be glum and serious, otherwise the energy will leave you behind. It will want nothing to do with you. You have to deserve it if you want energy to take you. Ooh. It's playful and it's beautiful. It's a lovely feeling because it's just so soft. It's like a softness that you never, you know, children have it, but adults don't. These children, you know, they're like symbols of playfulness, aren't they? Yeah. So my mum used to say to me, Stephen, you were never young. You were always serious. And so I'm having to make up for it now. So why? So let it just coordinate with the breathing. So, and then out, and take a breath. It really is like a breath with the whole body coming from the spirit, rather than just a breath with my diaphragm and my lungs. And now keep it going, but just now feel it coming more from these muscles. So
I'm pulling the muscle this side in order to draw myself across. So it's still got that lightness, but it's got a core of seriousness. So like I'm pulling from the back. Yeah. So this is what we want. We always want yin and the yang. Yeah, so our conjunction is and never or. It's not this or that, it's this and that. But we just have to really make sure that they don't clash, that they actually really add to each other and create this really complex, rich picture. So here, and then there's a sense that you could carry on forever without it sort of dissipating, without it getting weak or a bit too airy. Okay, so let's just bring it back. So let's just breathe it. So we just want this feeling that my legs are holding my sacrum, yeah, but loosely. And then each vertebra can just go a little. So the feeling is it really just expands the chest, and then they go back vertebra by vertebra. So it's very, very gentle, and it's got a real smoothness that comes from each vertebra shifting one at a time, like a ripple. So it's like water sort of just flowing up the spine and then back down. So the movement's quite different than normal. It's very sort of a very fluid movement that we don't expect from the spine. So it feels quite unusual. So this feeling here, like it can really, really open, and then it slowly starts closing down. And just extending our range, expanding our range. So opening, opening, and I could just keep this going. I could just keep this going. Even though my body stopped moving, there's still a sense that it's opening, 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 opening. And then it's my need for oxygen that pulls it back. And then here, just really squeezing all the air out. So there's not a drop of stale air left. And then just bringing it in again. Yeah, so you should be able to get it so that your breathing lengthens to like 3 or 4 a minute instead of 12 or 14, which is what the average person's breathing is. So, That's it. And just feel there's a point on the spine. Yeah. I'll put my hand on it. And when I do this bit, that point will just go in a little bit in this direction. And then there'll be a sense almost like my heart is lifted out of my chest and gone up a few inches, and then just instantly comes back down when I start doing this. Yeah. So a lot of the stiffness in the spine has been instituted by our own disappointment, if you like, disappointments in use of the heart. You know, we're just afraid to use the heart. So we're afraid to fall in love, afraid of getting hurt. So here you just got to, I've just got to click that up a little bit and then just let it flow back. Yeah, so each time we reach out, we're just going a little bit further than we've ever gone before, really, or just really venturing into that really sort of soft, nebulous zone where you're just pure energy and spirit. So here, you almost lose the body for a moment. It's very difficult to do it without the hand here. I think, you know, we need like years of doing this with the hand. And it just takes a touch. You don't have to push because it's like a dead spot. We just don't realize that it's stiff. You know, it's a blind spot. You know, we just don't want to sort of. So let's just start with the holding the golden urn, yeah? So it's very much this feeling of like a spout of water, a fountain, yeah? And this is very much at the place where the water's coming out of the ground. So here I'm with the spring, and then here I'm with the water, yeah? So this gets this in the right position. And then we can just round out into ward off without letting this go back too much. So we still want this to be at the source of the spring that's spouting out of the ground. But now I've just clothed myself. I'm not as naked as I was when I was doing this. Yeah. It's like a cloak, like the superhero's cloak. Okay, and now let's just do that spine exercise. So it's basically a squat, yeah? So that I've got this student who's an acupuncturist. He's everything, really. Like most Israelis, they're all experts on everything. Yeah? And so what he's saying is that he gets so many people coming to him that have actually damaged themselves from doing squats, even squats with no weight. You know, the way in Pilates, they stick their arms out and they go down. So we want to do squats, but make sure we get it right, yeah? So what I'll just show you. So I just go down. You don't have to go down all the way. Just go down. And then I want to come up by throwing my head back. So I throw my head back. I'm basically pulling in that point on my back and that will throw my spirit up. And then my legs just squeeze up and follow the spirit. So the legs aren't being stressed quite as much as they would be if you were just doing a squat to strengthen the legs. This is much more for like a spine and spirit exercise. So just as you go down, you can let your spine bend a little bit this way. You don't have to go down very far. And then just think in terms of throwing the head back and your heart leaping up. I throw my head back and then I just allow my legs just to straighten into that, yeah? And then down again. And you'll find if you just do a few, you'll get deeper and deeper. So the head has to start the action. But of course, the head being thrown back is not from my neck muscles, but from the muscles in my lower back. Yeah, so this is what we'd like. So I pull the lower back to throw my head up, and my legs straighten under that just to follow it. That's it. That's great. That's great. And you can keep on doing this. I mean, it feels like it's really strenuous, but it's not really. And again, just feel how it's breathing you. Your whole body is being breathed. Not so much oxygen-wise, not so much lung-wise, but just as one big lung, really. So I'm going down and woo. So it's a great exercise, this. Feel the back working, feel the belly having to be tight to support the back. You don't want your belly to flop out. Yeah. And head. Whoa. That's it. So just what you would do if you wanted to lift something heavy and do it right without hurting yourself. You'd have to get your fingers under it, and then you just use the muscles in the lower back, because if you didn't, you'd hurt your lower back. Yeah. If you just pushed with your legs against this heavy object without really tensing your lower back, you'd hurt it. So and up. And one more. So down. Just imagine you're getting your fingers underneath something, and then you just pull up. And then just back into riding horse. Now just feeling it. Yeah, so with each exercise, we're getting more and more into these muscles in the lower back and getting much more of an experience of the sort of mind that resides there. And now let's just try this twisting again and just really feeling it pulling into those muscles one at a time. So pull and one. Try not to let the hips turn. So just really feel it in the waist. Imagine you're in a canoe. Let's do the canoeing exercise. You got the stick. So you don't need one. You just imagine. Yeah, so you're holding a stick, yeah? And then we just canoe. Just imagine you're in a canoe. So if you're on the canoe, then basically your bum's not moving, so you're immobilized from the hips, and you're just dipping it in and pulling. So one, so it's pure back. Feel the spine tipping. So the spine is bending to the side, and it's also twisting. Wow. Feel the water. You're not just sweeping the fucking floor. There's real water there, and it's difficult. I have to really pull with those muscles. Yeah, so I have to get my legs have to be really down and immobilizing my hips so that I can get the lower back involved. Yeah, so we have to find a way of making it difficult for ourselves. Otherwise, you'll never get stronger. You want to get it to the point where you're fighting the stick. You're twisting it and trying to snap it. You know, it's riling you up. You're getting annoyed. So really tensing the belly. The more you tense the belly, the more you can work the lower back without hurting yourself. Okay, so enough is enough. And then just feeling it, you know, it's like, wow. So it's like those muscles plus the kidneys. The kidneys have got a lot of power, yeah? So, you know, John's teacher, Dr. Panizzi, he used to say that basically when people die, it's normally because their heart stops. So it's either heart failure or renal failure. Yeah, so the kidneys running out of energy, running out of steam, if you like, or the heart just packing in. So this feeling that the work that you do is packing the kidneys. The kidneys are like reservoirs, but they're reservoirs, not just, this is more like a reservoir, just like a watery energy, yeah? Whereas the kidneys are more like fire, yeah? And the Min Meng, yeah? So the acupuncturist I work with, he was saying it's basically 2 points on the spine that they naturally sort of heat up during the autumn in order to prepare you for the cold weather. And that's the Min Meng and the little lump on the top of the spine. He said it was C7. Yeah, so those are 2 points that just naturally charge up as the season changes. Yeah. And the kidneys very much feed the Danchen Min Meng area. Yeah, so in the classics where it says pluck up the back, yeah, it's just a weird thing, yeah. But that's just this point really here. That's, you get a sense that it's being pulled up behind you. Okay, now let's just bring it back to attention. But again, just feel as though it's concentrating into attention. So attention isn't just, it's not at ease. You know, in the army, attention, they're standing like this, and then at ease men, you know, and then everyone's sort of relaxed. So it's not that, it's at attention. Yeah, so you're really, so it's all these muscles really, the ones in the lower back that we've been trying to activate. Looks great. So there should be a sense that when you come back to attention, that's concentrating the spirit. You're coming back to a stillness that's not like a sleepy, settled stillness. It's a stillness that you can explode from. You're like the quiet before the storm. Okay, very good.